like now everybody talks about drugs. Drugs have always been a factor.
Let me tell you, when I was working, we knew 20 years ago that we had more drug deaths than we had murders in the city of Philadelphia. Drug deaths were not sexy. They weren't cute. Drug deaths, everybody thought was some nitwit down in the ghetto areas of Philadelphia, and that's all it was. Now you're getting the suburbanites. We used to find as many suburbanites as city people OD in the city of Philadelphia.
Well, that's what they don't say. There was one ad for a while that it showed this guy on a bike riding and a guy on a skateboard in a cul-de-sac in the suburbs, and it said 40% of drugs are used by people in the suburbs, and then it said, where do you think or in the city, it said, where do you think the other 60% are used? And I think, like you said, it wasn't sexy.
No, it just wasn't. I mean, Philadelphia, we've known for years that we have the best heroin on the East Coast.
Yeah.
That's what they call the analgesic potency, how powerful it is.
Well,
we've known that for years.
Well, I don't think if they need a spokesperson, but I don't think they'll be stealing that slogan from you for the visitors board.
No, I don't think so. It's
no sign above the bridge that says that.
Oh, that's like we used to get the calls like the big encampment underneath the B Street Bridge, the Silver Bridge we used to call it. They made a big deal out of it. Geraldo Rivera came down, and Dr. Whoever from New York, and back in days of old, we had a full response would go out to a drug death. And now, for money reasons, we just didn't have a full response. And you just couldn't control it. You just could not control it.
Was there, what kinds of cases did you see, like, in groupings? Like, stabbing, shootings?
Towards the end, it seemed we were getting less gunshots, and the stabbings were going up. This is just by my observations. I don't know what the statistics will show you nowadays, but it seemed that there were less guns out there, but the guns that were out there were more powerful. Huh. And our emergency medicine improved tremendously to save these guys. Some of these guys would be back. It's the third time they've been shot. I remember a lady told me one time when her husband died after she stabbed him. She said, "Well, I stabbed him before and he didn't die." So, what's your answer to that?
Did you see, with dealing with people, did you see, like, sometimes I see bad things bring out the best in people? Did you see it sometimes bring out the best in people?
Yeah. You would see that in some families. Usually I would try to, if I'm out at somebody's house and I'm breaking the news to the family, I would try to separate the family and figure out who was on my side. Usually you get the oldest person in the family, you get them out in the kitchen, you sit them down and you talk to them, and the rest of them come in and out, and you deal with one spokesman. And there's usually one that's going to rise to the forefront and take the lead and get things done. And there's other people out there who are always helping these people. Whether they're your social workers, whether they're business people, whether they're politicians every once in a while. Politicians would call up and say, "I don't want them to know that we did thus and so." And, how do we do it on the QT?
Did you get a special training for dealing with the families at all when you worked at the medical examiners?
That the city provided?
Yeah.
No. Why should such a thing go on with the city of Philadelphia?
Yeah.
No, but, I think a lot of us on the job, besides sitting around talking the way to handle it, I think a lot of us came in there with certain things about how you wanted to be treated, and you just expanded upon that. But,
like, did your mentor ever say, no, kid, you never do that. You get this kind of case, you do it this way?
Well, that was every day of the week. I couldn't order coffee right for him some days. It's like, Joe, there's 3 bodies on the street. Well, we got to stop first for coffee, because once we get there, we're not going to get a chance. So you had to take the drive-through coffee.
And when you started, they just had the van. You'd go out and pick people up, and
we never picked the people up. I mean, I never picked people up.
Oh, so
the investigators, that was not our function. Our function was purely investigation. If we were helping somebody to move a body because they needed the muscle to move it.
Gotcha.
That was not an issue.
So it's not a combined thing, okay? Because some places,
usually speaking, in Philadelphia County, the Philadelphia Police Department would transport a body. unless the body was so bad that they couldn't. By that I mean it was mummified or decomposing or just severely mutilated. And then our team would come out.
So you were a straight up forensic investigator.
Yes.
How did you interface with the police doing that?
We worked side by side, shoulder to shoulder.
And the did you ever differ in opinion? Did you ever have cases where the police felt one thing and you found evidence of another? Distinctly different?
No, not really. You might have a different opinion, but you could sit down and discuss it, and you would come out to the same conclusion.
Right.
I mean, there was everybody sees things with a different set of eyes.
Yeah.
And a fire guy might see it this way, a police guy might see it this way, somebody in corrections might see it this way, and it's like, who's telling the truth? There's his version, her version, and the truth.
Did you ever do any? Do you still talk to your mentor? Did people from the office ever get together, or they talk?
Yeah. They call up every once in a while and they go, "Well, we can't figure out how this happened, or why this went on, or what should we do here?" I get the calls about once a month or so.
How big is the morgue at the city?
In what way?
How many bodies can it hold?
A couple hundred.
Oh, okay.
A couple hundred, yeah.
And on a given day, that doesn't mean that there's 200 empty spots.
No,
there's long-term residents there, right?
There's probably in any given day, maybe around 100 bodies, plus or minus.
When you were there, what's the longest you remember somebody being in there?
8-10 years sometimes. If somebody's particularly in homicide cases where you work so damn hard to find out who they are, because usually once you know who they are, you know who did it.
Right.
And when you find the skeleton out in the woods or a piece of a bone out in the woods, you know what happened to it, you sort of get very upset, and it upsets you. And when you can't do it, it gets you mad, because you're better than that, and you don't want anybody else to get away with it. It's
one of those jobs people don't think about, because you don't want to think about. Nobody likes to think about end of life. Mm-mm. But it's one of those jobs that I don't think people realize that if you removed it from the equation, there'd be more mysteries out there. People be getting away with crimes.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing is, like, I remember my mother's best friend, her son disappeared one day. In the current vernacular, he went missing. And he was gone for a long period of time, and I know I had a vested interest in looking for Michael, because he was my mom's best friend's son, and I knew the kid. And it took us a while, but ultimately we did find him in Camden, New Jersey, in a lake over there.
What led you to that?
Just rehashing, going over the same old stuff over and over again. You got to remember, back in the 70s, everything was logbook and ledger books and handwritten entries and that sort of stuff. And we went, even though he was into every database that was out there, NCIC, the NAMUS, the John Doe websites, all that sort of stuff. And he just wasn't showing up. And we just went back and we found him over in Camden. Camden County had him.
It's amazing.
And I'm sorry, but
no, go ahead.
There's one of the problems is the fragmentation of jurisdictions, because you cross that border into New Jersey, and it's like a whole different world over there. It's it really is. It's like Pennsylvania operates on one set of rules and through one set of guidelines, and New Jersey is totally different. But
we've seen people go missing and had people argue over jurisdiction on what side of the line the body's on. It's treated completely different, depending on what side of the line it's on. What
easy to drag marks across the Cheltenham Avenue in Philadelphia. And it's not by the doer, it's by the police.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's times that you want to, when you'd want to deal with it, there's times where you just don't want to deal with something. So you guys are part of that end-of-life process of speaking for the dead because they can't speak for themselves. And what would you say before we go to after show? What would you say to somebody who was thinking about doing it as a career?
It is a consuming job. It is a challenging job, and it's also a very necessary job in our society.
And it's never going to be glamorous.
No, but it makes you feel good.
Right.
When you put the pieces together and you can tell the mom and or the dad and or whoever that this is your child or it's not your child. We know this is what happened to him. Absolutely. And we know who to look for now.
I got something to ask you about that when we go to after show. Okay. Well, Gene, thanks for coming. And we'll do a little bit of after show. See, that wasn't hard.
Huh? It wasn't.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Gene Suplee retired from the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office, 35 years as a forensic investigator. You said something at the end of the regular show about helping we were talking about helping the family and the necessariness of the job. I've been looking for, the whole time I've been doing missing persons, for a better word. And I can't find a word. Maybe you can help me. Because you were part of that process of helping them. You can't bring somebody back. That deal's done. But you were helping them with closure. And without that, I'm sure you've seen the impact of people not having closure is just devastating. Because people think that finding someone is the end of it, and it really isn't. It's just moving to another stage. But you've got to help them in that stage. Did you, when you got into it, did you realize how much that would be part of the job? I mean, that had to be draining.
Not initially, no. But after a while, you begin to realize it. And when you talk to somebody, you, quite frankly, have to pick and choose your words. A lot of people, you see very callous people sometimes, and they'll talk about everything from the body, the stiff, the ones who want to get fancy, the decedent. How about calling them by their name? A little thing like that makes a lot of difference to a family. Just tiny little things, and it makes it more personal. I had a guy that used to send me a Christmas card every year because I was the last guy that saw his son on the earth in his eyes. And I told him, "Your son, we called your son Superman because this kid looked like Clark Kent, Superman on the comics." And his dad was, "Yeah, that was him." So we had that little weird connection, but it connected one human being to another.
Well, and it's interesting because I don't like using the term when we're looking for somebody victim. I don't like that. I use subject because victim is saying I know an answer already that I don't have.
Right.
It's like people saying, "Well, why aren't you using cadaver dogs?" Say, "How do you know I'm not?" There's no reason for me to advertise that, and because I don't want to start people thinking down a negative road,
right,
too early on. And you must absolutely hate the CSI shows. Do you scream at the TV or?
Technically, they're technically accurate. I've never seen anybody with a Humvee. I never saw anybody in a crime scene wearing $1,500 high heels. And carrying this gorgeous pocketbook. You go in these houses and they're some of the houses we were in were like I never saw roaches move around in a freezer before I took this job. You go to some houses and there's roaches all through the freezers. You're in somebody's house and you're doing something, a rat runs up your arm. I mean, that's pretty ugh. But it washes off at the end of the day and you go home. You just can't worry about it. But they just yeah, you're right. They just don't understand what you're going through in the trenches. But when you go back to talk to the family, you've got to put on the other suit.
But they've glamorized it so much, and I think the way they've ruined it, technically they may be right, but I think they've accelerated the time frames.
Every juror is now an expert in every side